Picture this. It's a Monday morning. You sit down at your desk, open your laptop, and there's an email that reads, "We have been working on something exciting. We have built an AI model trained on the expertise of our top performers, including you." And for a moment, you don't know whether to feel flattered or terrified. Because that AI, it answers questions the way you would. It solves the problems the way you have been. And it even phrases things the way you would. And somewhere in the back of your mind, one question starts forming. Will they still need me? Hi everyone, welcome to HRTechify. And today we are going deep on one of the most fascinating and frankly unsettling idea emerging in the world of HR and people management. The rise of AI digital twins of employees. Now I want to be clear upfront. This is not science fiction. This is happening. And by the end of this episode, I want you to have a real, informed opinion on where you stand. Because everyone in HR, leadership, and frankly, anyone who works for a living is going to have to reckon with this. So, what exactly is an AI digital twin? What am I talking about? Now, let me start with the basic. An AI digital twin of an employee is a model trained on that person's work. It's their decisions, their emails, their project notes, anything related to their problem solving patterns that can help to create an AI model which can simulate how that individual thinks, how do they operate. Now, this is not a robot. This is, in fact, not even a clone, but it is a kind of intelligent distillation of someone's professional expertise. And this matters because every organization have had a problem of managing and maintaining the knowledge. A lot of organizations have been struggling to contain the knowledge within their ecosystem once the person has left the organization. Think about what happens every time a senior person leaves a company. Now, that experienced engineer who retires takes with them the ton of knowledge that they have been using for the organization over the past 20, 30 years of their association with the organization. In fact, what happens when an HR business partner leaves an organization who understands the culture of a company better than anyone else? When they walk out, that knowledge walks out with them. And now companies are experimenting with AI to solve exactly that. In fact, today, organizations are building internal knowledge graph tools that can help them map employee expertise. Accenture actually has published research on AI augmented workforces. And many startups are now focusing to create enterprise knowledge systems that learn from the patterns of top performers. So, the underlying logic is compelling. What if you could bottle the expertise of your best people and make it available to everyone? Now, let me steelman this idea for you because there are genuine benefits worth taking seriously. Imagine a junior employee who on day one has access to the accumulated decision making patterns of the best people in the company. Now, I know this can get overwhelming, but also think of it from the fact that the same new junior employee, now instead of waiting 3 years to build experience through trial and error, can now consult an AI that reflects decades of organizational wisdom. Now, you can probably argue that this is replacing expertise. I see it differently. I would say that, it's actually democratizing expertise. Take another example. Let's consider onboarding. As per SHRM's report, The average time for a new hire to reach full productivity is somewhere between, you know, 8 months to a year. Now, if an AI trained on a real employee workflow could cut that in half, the productivity gains for organizations would be enormous. And also, from a knowledge continuity standpoint, in industries like manufacturing, healthcare, and even infrastructure, where experienced workers are aging out of the workforce at scale, this could genuinely prevent catastrophic knowledge loss. So, therefore, the opportunity is real. But here is where I want to push back because I think that challenges are not just technical, they're also deeply human. First things first, a survey from Deloitte found that over 60% people use AI at work. But almost half of all the employees are worried about losing their jobs to AI. And this fear is not irrational. If a company can build an AI that does 70% of what you do for a fraction of the cost, what does that mean for your job security, your negotiating power, your own sense of value? Now, the second question is the question of consent. Right now, most of the employment contracts have broad intellectual property clauses that gives the employers ownership of the work product, which is created on the job. But does that also extend to training AI on your own cognitive patterns, your own decision making styles, your behavior, your voice, and even your tone? This is something as a question, but a growing number of legal scholars also say that this is an uncharted territory. And employees largely have no idea if it's even happening. The third thing is, and this is the one that's actually keeping me up at night, what about the bias? If an AI is trained on how your top performers historically have been behaving, unconsciously it is also learning their blind spots, their biases, and even their limitations. It does not just actually capture the best of a person, it is capturing everything of a person. And if that AI then shapes how decisions are made, how new hires are evaluated, how problems are approached and framed, then we are actually scaling those biases across the organization. So then that brings us to the question of ownership. Who owns this? Some researchers are starting to talk about what they call knowledge royalties. That the idea that if your expertise is used to train a system that continues generating value after you leave, you should or you might be entitled to some form of ongoing compensation. Now, most companies would push back very hard on this. And the standard legal argument would be we paid you for your work, so we own the output. But there is a difference between owning what you produced and owning a model of how you think. And that line is going to be tested in the court of laws and even in employment contracts in the coming years. In fact, there are some early signals on this. The SAG AFTRA strike in 2023 included protections around AI replicas of actors, voices, and likeness. Right. Writers in the WGA strike won restrictions on studios using AI to replace human writing. These were creative industries, but the principles are directly applicable even to knowledge work. So the conversation is coming for HR, and it's just a matter of when. So here's where I land on this. I think AI digital twins of employee expertise is coming, whether we like it or we not like, or do we not like it. And the business case is too strong. The technology nowadays is too capable of it. But how organizations implement this will define their culture for years. The companies that choose to do it transparently with the consent of their employees and clear policies with some form of shared benefit will build trust. However, the companies that do it quietly, assuming that they can bury it somewhere in the employee contracts when people are not looking for it, are going to face challenge. If your company approached you tomorrow and said, you know what, we want to build an AI based on your expertise, so future employees can actually learn from you, would you really feel proud or would you feel uneasy? And more importantly, what would you expect in return for the same? Now, the answer that you are going to give is actually going to shape the future of work. And therefore, I would love to know where you stand on this. Drop a comment, send me a message, share this with someone who you think should be reading about it or hearing about it. Because one thing is clear, in the future of work, the most valuable asset may not just be what employees do, but what organizations can extract from how they think. And the question of who owns that is one of the defining debates of our generation. Thank you for listening to HR Techify. I'll see you in the next episode.